no, my shirt is too long and I have a meeting in an hour. What will I do?
Alright guys, today we're going to be learning how to sew a hem. So what we have here is a slide ruler. You can use a regular ruler if you want. Our needle and needle threader, some tailor's chalk or a marking pencil if you prefer, just some way to mark where you need to sew, some fabric, a spool of thread, snippers or scissors, pin cushion, and pins. And you will also be needing an iron for this task, and just be very careful with it. So the first thing we're going to do is turn your iron on. They all have their own unique setting, but you need to know what you're going to be hemming. For instance, this is pure cotton, so I'm going to put it on a 6, which is the cotton setting, and set it to the side and wait for it to heat up. In the meantime, you're going to determine how big your hem needs to be. If you're matching it on a shirt that's already has a hem and you're just repairing it, you want to keep it in line. If you're making your own hem, you'll need to decide what you want your seam allowance to be, which is where one of these rulers really comes in handy. It's a normal ruler, but this little blue piece in the middle slides, so that way you can make sure that these ends come off, that you have it exactly where you need it to be. So on mine, I'm going to have a generous hem. I'm going to do a 1/2 inch hem. And you'll place it down so that the blue edge is against the edge of the fabric. Take your marking pencil or tailor's chalk and just make a little mark at the end of the ruler. And it might be difficult to see, but there you go. And you'll just do that all along the edge. And that way you'll know exactly where you need to fold. If you're doing this on a shirt that already exists or you've made something, you'll want to mark it on the inside so that way it doesn't show. So our iron has heated up, so that's ready to go. Actually, no, it is not. We're going to need to pin this first. So seeing where you marked, you're going to fold, press down, and pin. Just like that. And you're just going to do that all along. And there you have it. So now it's time to iron. I'm just going to press gently along the sides. Until it's nice and flat. Alright, so now we have our flat pinned hem. And what I'm going to do is just move the pins up, so that way I have a little more space to work with. Even though I'm going to be pinning near the, or sewing near the edge, I like to give myself room for error. Alright, so it should look about like this, and then this blank area up above is where we will be sewing. So we're going to get our needle and our threader, and we're going to put the wire end right through the eye. And I'm getting ahead of myself. So we need to measure out the thread. Thread should usually be about twice the length of whatever it is you're sewing, with a little extra thrown in for good measure. Just cut that off. And we're going to tie up this end in just 2 or 3 little knots. And there we go. So now we'll feed the other end of the thread through the wire. Pull the needle off, pull the thread through. And there we go. And you want to make sure that the excess thread is about halfway down the full length. Alright, now to start stitching, this is the inside, this is the outside. We're going to start on the inside. So we're going to put the needle down and then back up and then pull it through. So that we have one end right here and a full stitch on the other side. And we're going to continue with that, trying to keep them as even and as straight as possible. Down, up, and then through. And as you're stitching, you can take the pins out. And on this final stitch, bring it up, and you should have something that looks about like this. We're going to take out those last 2 pins. And there's your hem. Now to finish it out, we're going to do just like we did when we were stitching up the rip. We're going to go back and fill in those blank spaces. Only this time we're going to focus on the outside because that's what's going to be seen. So we're going to bring the needle back up. Well, we'll bring it down on the inside, right at the edge of that. So they match up. So your thread should be coming out just like that. And we're going to repeat that the rest of the stitches. So that way in the end, we'll have a straight line. And of course, you won't be able to see it as well with yours because you'll be using matching thread. Alright, so now we're on the last stitch. So we insert it here. And bring it through. So we're back on the inside of the garment. You can see it looks a little spotty on the inside. But if we flip it over, it's a pretty straight line. And we're going to pull the thread fully out of the needle. So we're done with that. Cut off some of the excess. And then tie it off, same as before, with just a few knots. And now that we're done, I'm just going to snip off the extra. And you should have something that looks about like this. And for good measure, we're just going to turn back on our iron. Just give it one quick run over. Make sure it's nice and flat and even. And there you have a hem.
Yay, my crop top's ready for my meeting. Thanks, Holly.